Hello, everybody. So this is Safira, and as you know, I once in a while do videos or interviews with members who you've seen on Saturday webinars asking questions, or you've seen them around, but we don't really know too much about them. And we have so many really fascinating members in our group here. And so I decided today I'm going to interview Alicia. Also, her name she really loves to go by is Temple Beautiful, a name that was given to her. She can explain more about that. So we're going to start with just generally saying hello, Temple. I call Temple Temple because that's what I like. And would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit, like, for example, anything about, you can start anywhere. I think Alicia is somebody, or Temple is somebody who is so diverse and has so many different aspects to her that any one of them could be a life. So she could say, okay, I'm pulling down Temple from this timeline, and there's a whole beautiful life to explain how it integrates into this one, and it's fascinating. So why don't you start wherever you want to start about yourself, that we can get to know you a little bit.
Sure. Thanks for having me. You explained it really well. I am constantly jumping timelines. I'm constantly pulling in information from various timelines. So, like one day if I'm on a Atlantean timeline, the next day I could be on an Egyptian timeline, and so on and so forth. So,
Cool.
my name is Temple Beautiful, and friends in Hucolo just refer to me as Temple. That's cool. I I don't really know where to start because being a timeline jumper is so multifaceted. But the name Temple Beautiful actually has a really cool bit of history to it. I'm a historian. That's my trade. And my 3D job is running the only historical apothecary in the world. So I think that's pretty cool. And
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that, what that is exactly.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. The name Temple Beautiful is actually a real temple that existed throughout history in numerous timelines. There were three temples: Temple Sacrifice, Temple Beautiful, and I can never remember the other one. But that's the end. If you reach that temple, then you're done. Congratulations, you graduate. It's amazing.
Okay.
But
Maybe Temple Redemption or Temple.
It's
like the Doctor, like Time Lords, they regenerate.
Right, and that's actually what the last temple is, if I could ever remember the name. It's where you actually shed. The temples originally were in Atlantis, and they were they're for anybody who wanted to come to them, but they were like a step-by-step program for DNA mishaps is probably not the word, but when you combine, like human DNA with animal DNA, and you get like a centaur. Those who were kind of outcasts could come, and they could start and devote their lives from one temple to the next. And then by the end, they could have a brand new body that doesn't have any of the integrated animal DNA into it. But
Wow.
It's more about learning to raise your vibration and healing, and Temple Beautiful was the middle temple. And that was where I worked. And that was like crystals, vibration, music, sound, dance, all the arts. And so, yeah, I love the name Temple Beautiful. And so that's what it is.
And you were a goddess there, were you not?
Well, Michael says I shouldn't probably, goddess is maybe a little, but I'm seen, I'm seen as such, but just being a, goddess is not the term.
Priestess, maybe.
Yeah, priestess is a good term.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm taking care of the crystals and things like that, so.
And how does that integrate into your life now? Are you using all those things, music, stones, crystals? I'm sure you are, right?
Oh, yeah. I actually, funny story, I have a fractal of Mozart in me, which you would think that like I'd be able to be amazing at piano, which I did learn piano from a very young age, and for a while I was really proficient in it and adored Beethoven. But when I found out that I had this fractal of Mozart in me, I was talking to Catherine the Great at the time, and she interrupted me and she goes, "And no, he has nothing to do with your music." And I was like, "Oh, okay." That's great. That would explain why, like, I don't really play very much anymore. But yeah, music, music, song, and
yeah.
All that, crystal healing, crystal grids, that's all been a huge part throughout my life. So definitely.
And do you know who has never really been broadcasted or emphasized is Mozart's sister. So I just watched a movie from Europe called Mozart's Sister, and amazing. She was an amazing composer,
Yes.
The violinist, everything. But women were not allowed to delve in any of that. And so every time she tried to, say, "Hey, Dad, can I compose?" or whatever, he'd say, "Oh, God, you have to get that out of your head. You're a woman," And that was kind of sad. But
she was always on the tailcoats of her brother. And for a while, they did do a lot together, a lot of music and stuff.
Yes.
Like even just traveling at that time, like the way the family traveled and how they got money to go from one place to the next. Like everybody thinks that when you rise to stardom, it's this magnificent thing. But what people don't realize is that most composers, most painters, anybody who in this 3D Earth planet that becomes famous, you usually don't really get noticed for the work that you do until you're off planet. And then getting there is actually really hard. It's not very easy.
That was so true.
Same thing with Mozart.
Yes. Yes. So, okay, thank you. So, I'm so curious to ask you what was your first spiritual experience and how you first started getting interested in that. But first, I think, can you explain how you ever got involved in historical apothecary and what it means and what it does and where did that all start? That's so fascinating.
Sure. So I had always been interested in like natural healing and history. So when you kind of combine the two, it speaks for itself. But I always actually thought I was going to be an Egyptologist or a teacher. And my parents were dead set against me going to field schools in Egypt. So teacher was the next best option. And that panned out. I actually did teach in a 1901 one-room schoolhouse for many years. I did subbing. But when push came to shove and we all have to kind of find our passions in life, or we sit at a desk job that we really don't feel connected with.
Yeah.
My first passion was always historical clothing, and I felt this disconnect between people who, the costumes that the people have, it's not really in the vibration of what actually was. And so helping the historical community by teaching the correct draping methods and the correct fabric and the correct sewing would help people really feel attuned to that vibration of that period that they're reenacting versus putting on a polyester costume. Some people, although they don't realize why they're drawn to a specific period, but I always felt having the proper clothing would help them in whatever they were searching for that they left behind for themselves in that period. And what happened was I worked in a professional theater for many, many years, and I had a soundboard fall on my wrist. And so my wrist was...
Oh, wow.
my according to the doctors, my wrist was non-repairable. I have healed it myself since, so it's all good. But it put a damper on my hand sewing business and working with museums, and so I was really kind of at a bypass in my life, and I went to bed because all my best ideas come when I'm sleeping, because that's when like my teams and stuff can really talk to me. And I had this dream, and in this dream, my ancestors said, your next venture is going to be to start this historical apothecary. You already have all the knowledge. You just need to do it. And you need to teach people the flip side of history, that not everybody was dying. You know, things weren't as harmful as everybody says. Yes, you have that side of it where there was mercury and things, but really the majority of the population was very natural, and they were using, you know, herbs that were in their gardens or in the woods, or natural herbs that the apothecarists had. And so you need to bring that piece of history back. And so that's like
before you continue, honey, so what time period are you talking about exactly in history?
Oh, any and all time periods.
Oh, okay, continue.
Yeah, they didn't really give me a specific timeline, although... Oh,
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
okay.
No, it's okay. In that moment, I really, for whatever reason, was interested in like colonial, like where they were the Whigs with George Washington. And so that's where I really started, and delving into the original recipes and the original books. And you have to know the language, and you have to know it's not as easy as it seems to just like pick up a historical book and know exactly what they're talking about and exactly how it's written.
It doesn't seem easy at all. I don't even know how you did it. Yeah. So where did you start? Where did you start after that dream? You went to a library and tried to find remedies from that time, or?
No, I had been collecting a lot of antique books. We're actually sitting in my library right now. So it was just a matter of pulling some of the books to see where I wanted to get started. And then my team was guiding me through the whole way, because my life actually fell apart right before this. And I had left my husband, and I had been homeless. I had nothing, absolutely nothing. And I met a wonderful gentleman, and we scraped up enough money to be able to get our first apartment. And so this is where this all starts building from there. Okay. So, you know, when you're down, you're not always down. There's always something coming. You just gotta remain positive.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And so how long ago did you start that? And I know you have an Etsy business going, right? So how long have you been developing, and what kind of things do you have for people? Is it face cream? Is it makeup? What kind of things do you work with?
So the business I turned the business from sewing into the apothecary around 2010. And from there, we started with like a lip balm, you know, like a Burt's Bees lip balm, but with tint, because that was the original recipe in the...
With what? With what?
Tint, like a little bit of color.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yep. And from there, we did cold creams, and cold creams are like a moisturizer, dirt remover cream, so you don't get wrinkles. And now we span all sorts of centuries. We have a tooth powder from like 1665. Before they had toothpaste, they had powder that they brushed their teeth with.
Yeah.
And we go all the way up to the 1940s.
Wow.
And it's anything and everything from herbs. Like you can go to our Etsy shop and get organic herbs. You can get organic tints or dyes, plants that will give you color. You can get, 1930s cold cream, or you could get a 1820s, lip tint. Or if you have a gaping wound, you can get a recipe from the early 1700s from Scotland that you pack in your wound and you bandage it up, and it heals all wounds in 2 days. I mean, actually not really in 2 days, but that's what the recipe says, 2 days. But it does do a really good job.
Wow. I can see your skin is really smooth, so have you been using the cold cream?
Oh yeah, cold cream is a must. It's definitely a must. My grandma's skin, she's 80 something. Her skin looks like my skin, and it's all because she used her Pond's cold cream. So,
my mother used it all the time as well, and she never really got any wrinkles. And so, but I thought Pond's does Pond's have much more chemicals in it now than it used to? Like, is your recipe similar to Pond's before it got chemicalized? You know what I'm talking about? Said that the wrong way.
No, you said it right. we have so many different types of cold creams that the general idea of what Pond's did, we do. But the original recipe, I haven't come across the original recipe, so I'm not really sure
Okay.
what it is.
Yeah.
Hang on just one second.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's fascinating information about the apothecary. I mean, when I was young, I went to what's called Old Bethpage Village Restoration, where they tried, everybody was just living their life. It was a village, and people lived their life as they had lived at that time. And of course, tourists came and observed how they made butter and this and that. Is that your plan at some point to have people tour, teach people yourself how things were eventually?
We do that already. So we don't travel as much as we used to, but we used to spend all summer and all fall just traveling the United States from one event to the next, very gypsy-like, where I would have to wear historical clothing at all times, and my clothing was such that it was done exactly as it was. So if you had two together, you could tell the difference. But we don't travel as much anymore. We still teach classes on like proper cosmetics, proper hair care, how to make historical salves, things like that. But right now, the business has grown so much that we're still out of our home, but we're actually looking for a brick and mortar, I guess is what you would call it. So things are changing. Yeah.
That's great. So you have a very, very historical and very grounded life on one side with this. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So now we're going to go to the other side. Not the other. There's no such thing as other, but the harmonious aspect of your spiritual life. So I know that's very multifaceted. So I'm curious, how old were you when you first became aware that there's something more than your physical reality as you knew it?
That's a great question. I think the first major event that I remember is viewing myself, having an out-of-body experience, as a lot of people call it, viewing myself from my childhood bed. And if it was me, well, it was me in the bed, but I was just hearing all these just different languages, people talking over one another. And I knew that I couldn't really see anything because my family is very religious.
Oh.
So I had to figure it out myself. And I remember just staring at myself in this bed thinking, okay, you could do this. You're smart. Figure out how to stop all these voices. And it was just like, if I would just have like a telephone connection to like every place in the world, that's what it sounded like, just people talking over one another. And so eventually I figured out how to shut that off, or shut that down anyway. And then as I continued.
How old were you?
Yep.
Oh, how old were you? Sorry. How old were you at that time? Can you just give us a time? Generally speaking, like 5, 10.
I was probably like 4.
Oh, that's really young. Okay.
I had just graduated into the big girl bed, so I'm not sure like when that actually happens, because I don't have 3D children of my own, so I'm not really sure on that whole parenting thing.
Okay. Forgive me. Please continue. So you learned how to turn it off, and then?
So I learned how to turn it off, and then I had always had this feeling that somebody or something was watching over me. It was a bizarre feeling of, in the beginning, not knowing how to, like, kind of feeling uncomfortable, but then eventually getting really used to it and feeling very comfortable that I had like something feeling that was always with me, because I was different. I think we all are. I think we're all different, and so I spent a lot of time alone. But I did have an actual spaceship come up and check on me quite often throughout my life, throughout my childhood. Wow.
So you would go outside in the backyard and they would kind of like stop and then wave and go on?
The most vivid memory I have is being in like a playroom up in the family room, we called it, and there was a window right in front of me, and I stood in front of that window, and my family lived in a woods. So in the driveway, the ship, like if this is the window, the ship came right next to the window. So you could actually see all the lights and you could see the, and I kind of stood there. And I think I was that was another out-of-body experience where I could see myself just standing there, but I'm sure I was doing other things, probably getting like checkups and updates and making sure I was okay at the time. And I had a friend over at that time, and she doesn't remember any of it. And yet it was so real for me. And so I always had a lot of questions growing up, because my story, my parents would change the story. I'm adopted. So my parents would change the story, and just strange things would happen. And I had a language that I would speak, and I would get return answers. I would hear return answers.
Yeah.
But you stop speaking that after a while, because like that's not normal and that's not human.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we get conditioned that way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you were hearing these languages. Were you getting the language back in the same language, or were you getting an English translation?
No, I would get it in the same language, and I would respond in the same language.
Okay. And then you decided you decided in your mind or in your subconscious to stop it, or it just stopped on
Yes, because I don't remember exactly when I stopped it or why I stopped it, but I assume that once you get into, I went to parochial school. So once you get into school with your schoolmates and you're like, hey guys, don't you speak this language? Because I just thought everybody spoke it. And then they kind of look at you and like you want to have friends and you want to be normal. And so you try to change yourself to be what people expect of you in the human community. So.
Yes, and good thing this wasn't during the Salem witch hunt period of history.
Right? I've lost my head so many times and been burned so many times that
really
I was probably there. Oh yeah. In fact, I have had a very long 3D experience with my twin, which is very complicated to say because we were actually love bitten in a government program. It's very complicated. But while things were going on, before I knew any of this and knew what was going on, I had a experience where I jumped back to my body on a specific timeline. It was like a witch trial timeline. And I was tied up and I was going to be getting burned, and everybody was gathered around, and I was kind of scanning for him, and he was like peeking out behind a tree, like he couldn't bring himself. And we weren't, I don't know what our relationship was back then, but I knew they were going to come for me. So I had given him these secret documents that were now in his charge. And they lit me on fire, or they lit the pyre on fire. And the problem in my 3D was that I knew I was experiencing a past life or a past experience, but my human body wasn't playing along because it was in such shock, I think, that it wouldn't let me wake up. And so I had to feel the burning until I passed out and left. So so I've had some just really crazy experiences, but I've written them all down. I knew for whatever reason that, these need to be written down. So from then on, I kept journals, and I'm able to go back and be like, oh, that's why I experienced that, or that's why I wrote that. So
do you have a certain aversion to fire in any way now as a result of all of that?
I really don't. No. I have always had neck problems though. In my vertebrae. And I always have to have my husband get on the floor and pull my neck so I can get some padding in there, because it's so smushed. There's no there's not really cartilage there. And I think that's because of being hung one too many times. Yeah.
Well, that's. I just watched a few DVDs. There was a little mini series called New Worlds, and it was how the colonies were trying to get established while England was trying to hold really tightly onto them from England to America. And a lot of that stuff, exactly what you were describing, was going on. There was a woman about to burn and a man hiding behind the tree because he couldn't bear it. And he had documents that,
No way, really?
Yeah, because they were trying to, the Americans who were still under English choking rule were trying to, rebel in their way. And anytime the English got a hold of that, they would crush it. And that's one reason this woman had
Do you know what the documents were that he held?
They were inspiring people to rise up against the English colonists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Something like that. They were religious. They were kind of religious, philosophical texts.
That's what mine were. That's so weird. I'm gonna have to watch that. Wow. Yeah, that's what mine were too. Like religious, philosophical text. But from what I understood, in jumping back into that now, was about like what do we call that? We call that hidden histories, or like about that, trying to bring that to light of like, this is the way things are, and that's what I do. That's what I've been doing on Earth for so long. It's been like one massive mission, but we're kind of at the jumping off point here. We're gonna either break it or break it this time.
Okay. I would. We probably would need about a mini series to do your life, but for the interview, can you tell us about Human Colony, how you first came in contact with it, and what you found fascinating enough from all of your experiences to sort of stick around a little bit and get a little more involved?
Sure. Yeah. I was actually told to go visit this website, which was Human Colony, when I was looking for information on the languages that had come back in. The one that I had stopped speaking, I had a session with somebody, and they said that it's time to bring your Galactic languages back, that you already have them, you just need to start speaking them. So I took a shower, and all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I could speak these languages that I hadn't spoken in forever, but I didn't know what they were saying, and that bothered me as a historian.
Yes,
so
yes.
I searched and searched and searched, and then someone said, check out Hucolo, and it's just been wonderful. It's been a very family. I found so many soul connections through Hucolo. And Hucolo really, for me anyway, you can't just start telling people about your 4D, 5D, 6D lives without them looking at you crazy. But like in Hucolo, people understand that, and they understand that there's many of us working on various timelines, and so you can really connect and open up to people that way. And then also, with Jim, being able to be the multifaceted, amazing, soul that he is, and just help you kind of gain footing when you have to all of a sudden learn, like all this information is coming in, and you're awakening to all this new stuff, and now you have to kind of balance both the 3D and all the rest. So yeah, it's just been a really great experience for me.
And you've probably met a lot of people who are so, I mean, you said family, but like we've all had some work we've done together somewhere, somehow. I always find more and more that it's not just coincidence, the members who join, when they do, how they connect to each other. You're finding that, especially with Egypt, right? And they have a special connection with Egypt and a lot of members. Can you talk a little about that?
So one of the timelines that I'm not only drawn to, that is such a part of me in this timeline, in this current now, is Egypt. And through Hucolo, I've been able to not only explore my experiences in Egypt and learn a bit more about them than just the 3D history that everybody talks about. Learn how I always had these notions of like having dual missions. You have the 3D one, but then you have the Galactic mission in Egypt, and learning more about that, and then also meeting the people that I've had these missions with in Egypt. So it's just been really wonderful to be able to meet back up with family, and not just any family, real connected soul family. Because I think all of us look for our families. We have our 3D families, but those of us in Hucolo, we need other families, and so that's what that's really provided for me. And it's allowed me to I think more than anything to believe in myself, to keep trucking when you're kind of at your lowest and you're thinking this is all just really crazy and should I just be in a straitjacket type of thing. I mean, we've all thought that, right?
Like went through that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
We've all thought that, but then there's moments in your life where you look back and you're like, well, but this happened, and that triggered that, and that's how we all got to this moment now. And there's no way that could have been made up, because it just it doesn't make sense. So it has to be real. And
right. And apparently, there's still a lot to learn from Egypt, and a lot of documents and information to be learned that are in the pyramids and things like that. So we're definitely not over yet with the influence of Egypt. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree. One of my friends, one of my people on the other side that I speak to quite often is Ramsey II. And so we talk a lot about how not just the 3D aspect of Egypt, but the galactic aspect, and how all the different races fit in and what was actually going on. And so I have just a ton of information that I'm sure at some point when the time is right, we'll be able to come out. Yes.
So I was thinking about spiritual sustainability. So through all of these timelines, in and out, and all the beings trying to get through to us and talk through us, because now's the time when we're integrating even more and helping them, and them helping, stuff going on, sort of like in a whole intergalactic center or community, like on Star Trek, where they have these neutral zones where all the beings come and they talk and they negotiate, and the government.
You mean like Earth? Earth was a neutral zone.
Yeah.
Planet Earth was a neutral zone for that to happen.
Yeah. So through all of these ups and downs, and all the information you receive, and all the impulses, and all the desires to be part of so many different fascinating things going on in this galaxy and the next, and your business. So what would you say are some tools for spiritual sustainability in your life? That's a fancy way of saying keeping yourself grounded through it all.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's definitely something that I've struggled with, and I here and there kind of continue to struggle with, because we're all on these spirals, and we're all still learning. But it's interesting you bring this up, because I just had a conversation with a friend of mine who she's a medium. She works with cold case files.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And because I was telling her that I have a hard time balancing all my stuff going on.
Right.
But then when I shut off, because everybody has the ability to shut it off or turn it on. When I shut off the upstairs, then I feel like a part of me isn't quite complete. So she was explaining to me that she actually burnt out because she couldn't quite get that balance, and she thought she had to be turned on 24/7. And so I think the biggest thing for me is to stay grounded the best you can. Like we take walks every morning and every evening outside to just go outside and be grounded. And then to realize that as you're growing, you're always learning, and you don't need to. I know we all want to stay turned on 24/7 to all our friends in the astral and everybody on the other side, and all our galactic friends. But it's not necessary. If you found Hucolo, it's inherent in you to be connected with the galactics and with all these other beings. So you don't need to force yourself to turn on. If you feel like you need a day where it's just you in the 3D, take that day. It's all about balance. And so like I've kind of sort of set a time aside at night before I go to bed where I light my candles and I just be with myself and be with my team. And that's where my guides can come in and say something if they need to. And then other than that, I just don't think about it too much. I think about the business when I'm working with the business. And I've had my teams and guides like just pop in, and my clairaudience is opening now, so I can hear them.
Okay.
So
yeah.
they'll pop in if they have something important to say, but it's not like I'm constantly searching for that. I just accept that it's there, and when the moment is correct, everything will happen in due time. And if I'm feeling drained or if I'm feeling exhausted, I sleep. I try and sleep a lot because at night I'm always working on astral, so I don't always get the best in the world. So I take a lot of naps, but it's all like learning what works for you, drinking a lot of water, eating cleanly, whatever that means. I mean, I personally eat a lot of eggs and red meat. So like some people would say, well, that's not very, but like everybody is so different. You can't really put people in boxes.
You can't. And those are two very grounding foods. Yes. And you intuitively know that you need those. Otherwise they would just come and take you away. It's like, okay, Temple, we need you up here.
Exactly. And sometimes my husband,
go ahead.
Sometimes my husband says that he's like, you need to adjourn whatever meeting you're in right now, galactically. And I need you down here. I need you in the shop because we have to finish this. And like when he says those things, like he knows he's right on the money. I'm dealing with other things in other dimensions, and I am not in the now moment. But that's something that Ramses has always really highly talked about with me, is that when you're open to channeling, the best channeling comes when you're grounded. And so you need to listen to your body, and you need to be in that 3D when you need to be in that 3D. It's not about always jumping to meet everybody's vibrations, gotta have you. So
thank you.
I don't know if that describes it or just makes it more difficult.
No, that's perfect. When I got involved with Human Colony, I prefer to say Human Colony because for people who don't know what Hucolo is, they don't understand it's connected at all. So I prefer Human Colony, but I interchange. But anyway, when I first joined, there was a lot of amazing experiences, and it makes it so hard to want to be in this world. But actually what they don't want is for us to not want to be in this world. They want us to be happy in this world. But of course, when you're interacting with them and you feel this amazing energy, and they've got no crime in their world because they're all telepathic and they're here to help us grow, it's so hard not to want to long to be there. But so the balance you mentioned is so beautiful because they want us to find that balance as well. It's not like they want to get us away from what we need to do, but it just happens if you're there, right?
And this actually brings up a really good experience that I had. So a lot of people these days want to get galactic DNA infusions of different like that's the cool thing these days. But for me, it's just the opposite. I have enough galactic DNA that actually took over my human DNA, and in the process of like the test tubes and stuff, they weren't quite sure how it was going to all work out. They were hoping for the best, that the human DNA would take over, but my galactic DNA actually took over. And so I needed, and I'm still getting human DNA infusions because my skin was turning blue. I was getting my ridges. I was getting the Palladian bumps down here. The problem was I was not able to function on a human level anymore because I wanted everything done telepathically.
Yes.
And because of that, you lose your 3D communication skills. So I had to, I was talking with Jakur and we were discussing this, and I was very interested because I would have assumed at that time that they would have been like, oh, this is great, you're so galactic. But what she actually told me was that this is not what we want at all. We want you to be able to enjoy your human body. We want you to be able to enjoy human feelings, you know, and the capacity of human speech. And so this is a problem. And I even said to her, I said, for the business, people were taking pictures of me and commenting that my facial structure is very harsh, like my cheekbones and everything, my ridges, everything was just very harsh. And she even said that we're going to fix that because here in the 3D, it's very important that you enjoy being human. You enjoy the moments that you have. We don't want you turning into, you know, your Palladian self or whatever. So I think that's very important. Because I think there's a lot of people who really want that galactic DNA in all its glory. But it's okay it's okay, I think, like if you're looking at it to help you with certain things. But in general, though, like, don't forget that we're here in the human for a reason. If we were not supposed to be here in the human and holding that light for the world and doing the best us that we can, we wouldn't be here. And
yes. Yes. Thank you. Beautifully said. Beautifully added on. Beautifully, a beautiful combination. Thank you. And so you have your apothecary, which requires a lot of work. And would you say that that's sort of like your spiritual work, like how you combine your spiritual work with your goal is to put this energy and this spirituality into the creams and the herbs, what you're doing? Or would you say you have another work? What other spiritual work do you do aside from the apothecary, if there is one, any? Yeah. I'm glad
you brought that up. So that's such a multifaceted question. Let's just start with the apothecary. So,
yeah.
So yes, what we do with the apothecary, what I use my abilities for, my gifts for, is that I'm able to change, this is going to sound ridiculous, I'm able to change the molecular structure and the vibration of things. And so we do that in such a way that we infuse what we make with that. So whatever the person is purchasing it for, let's just say purchasing it for like a headache or whatever, it serves their highest purpose. It helps heal. So we can actually, like, we have a really close relationship with the herbs and the oil and all the organic things, the ingredients that we use. And not only that, but being able to jump timelines. I'm actually able to go back and view, if somebody was making a recipe that I wanted to make, I can jump back to a time where they made it and I can just watch. They don't see, unless they're like, oh, it's a ghost, but they don't see me there, but I can watch them making it. So I know how to make it. And that connects people with their past experiences. And one of my guides told me once that the only way that we're going to really be able to heal the world or heal the earth is when people start healing themselves. And so a big component of that for me is that we need to start healing our past problems that we've had on these past timeline incarnations. Now, like if this is your first time here on this planet, that's another story. But for a lot of us who keep jumping back in, we have a lot of stuff going on all these different timelines, and that stuff needs to be healed. And so those apothecary products are a vibrational way to connect people with those timelines that they need healed. And whether or not that they know it, they're actually working on their stuff.
Wow. So for example, the solar plexus chakra vibrates a yellow color. So if I wanted to heal whatever was behind the solar plexus that needed healing from the past or present perhaps, what would I order that would be yellow? Or you don't know where I'm going with this? Like,
yeah, I do. So we don't necessarily like work too much with color vibration, although that's just as important. But I would probably say, like, if you sent me a message or an email and we're asking these questions, I would probably say just go through the shop, and the first one that strikes your fancy is the one that is vibration matches.
Okay. And would that be like a lotion that I would rub on my solar plexus, for example? Just to get an idea?
Sure, yeah. It could be a lotion, it could be a salve, it could be even like an ointment or a like a water, something that's like a water infused something.
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. That's fascinating. That is so. Oh God, this is another mini series. What you do? You've mentioned timeline jumping and a few times while we're talking, and I think a lot of people don't know. I mean, they know what it is, but how long have you been doing it, and can you do it at will, or do you need certain times of the day or certain spirits around you? How does that work?
It's rather exhausting. So like I don't just do it for the fun of it. Like
right.
There needs to be a reason, and also I need to. I mean, in order to attract whatever it is you want to attract, even if it's on the timeline, you just have to match that vibration. That's all you have to do. Now, how do you know what that vibration is? That's the question, you know. But I do it for work. I do it for work here on the 3D, and I have done it for work on the 4D and so forth. And it's just a matter of matching vibrations. On the 4D, sometimes they would have given me they call it a relic or an artifact, and then because I was able to use that for that vibration. So if our home is, a lot of people have described it as a museum. We have stuff from all over in cases and whatnot, just sitting out. We have relics and whatnot housed, and so it's pretty easy. You know, it's pretty easy for me just being in the house to match a vibration of something. Take a nap, you know, go take a nap and match that vibration, and then write down.
That's so cool. Yeah. Have you done a documentary on your home and your apothecary there?
No, we haven't, because we've been trying to keep the two separate-ish so far. But it's not going to always be separate. But generally, those in the historical world of things aren't quite. They don't quite view things from the way a lot of the Hucolo members view things. You know, so we kind of have two separate entities as far as that goes, even though it's the same job.
Well, I think we could do one without even talking about human colony.
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure we could.
Just because it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating, and everything that you do, I'm sure, comes on the heels of a lot of downtime and a lot of, you know, I hate to use, it sounds cliche-ish, but I'm sure you've gone through a lot of suffering, and as like everybody does when we go down, it's we feel like we're drowning, but then it's only to go back up again even stronger. But that downtime is so intense. So I'm not making assumptions, but I know from what I know of you, it's just natural, isn't it, to have gone through so much. So when I say what you do is fascinating, I'm including the history of your life in it. You know, I'm including everything in it. The spiritual, the physical, the discipline to develop what you've developed, because a lot of people have talents and wishes and desires, but what's missing is somehow that discipline to start it and stay with it, or maybe the support people around you to help you stay with it when you want to give up. And so would you agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So it's admirable what you've done, simply because you haven't given up doing it, basically, because your idea is fantastic, but had you given up on it and had you succumbed to a lot of the 4D influence to the point of, you know, wanting to just totally withdraw, so you managed to find your way to keep the balance.
Yeah, and I mean, it hasn't been easy, like, in the short amount of time that we don't have we don't have time to talk about how I learned that I was involved in these government programs, and
I know. Yeah.
how I learned, like, why my adoption is so sketchy, and, you know, things like that. So with every wonderful rainbow story, there's going to be the opposite, the yin and yang. It's a balance act. And
yes.
I think for me, one of the most important things is that I'm very stubborn. I'm very stubborn, but like in the lowest of my low, I now recognize that it's okay to do that. Like, I give myself time to feel that, because that was part of the problem of why the Zetas became what they became, is because they lost all that feeling, and that, you know, and so I think a lot of people misunderstand the love and light thing, thinking that they can never have feelings, or everything always has to be unicorns and whatever. And that's not the case. Yeah. The real mastery of it is to understand that everything exists on a vibrational level. If you're in a low vibration because something went wrong, it's okay. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, you know, here I am, I'm feeling bad. I'm going to give myself, this is what I do, I'm going to give myself whatever, a day to feel like crap. And then I don't want to be in that vibration anymore. And I'm going to raise out of that. And so it's not about skipping those feelings altogether. It's about owning them and realizing that, like, you're human. You're here in the 3D. Yeah. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think because it's been about an hour, and because I know you always have a lot of work to do. So thank you so much that you took time out, because it's precious that you did that. And so I wish we had another 5 hours, but we might, upon request, we might do another interview with you to get more information.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to do another interview, and maybe we just focus on the non-physical, the not, you know, like the 4D and the 5D, things like that. If you know, and if other people have questions, it's very hard, I think, sometimes to take your experiences, and then especially when they're not in the physical you, and then try to use human words to explain everything. It's a very difficult thing to navigate,
but you did a good job so far. When you explained today, you did a good job, and so you're one of the people who can do that. You just said it's important, right? I cut you off.
No, it is really important, and so that's
so we can do that again. Okay,
that's Kira. She's a little late. Normally
she's beautiful. I love her. I've seen your posts about her. She's just the most clever little kitty cat there is. So, well, you have a great evening, and we'll be in touch soon. And this will be posted in a few places so everybody can watch. And I think it's really great for most people who don't know you, or well, not most people, but the new people coming in, or the new people watching who don't know you yet, and those who know you but not enough. Sure. I think it's great that you spoke about the apothecary. And can you mention your Etsy page real quick? I mean, it's not meant to be an advertisement video, but can you just mention if people want to check it out?
Yeah, so you can find our shop you have to get ready, because it's a confusing website address, but there's reasons it's written this way. So it's www.littleBits.etsy.com, and we can even put it below wherever we post this, if that's
okay. You can do that when you see it. Okay, thank you.
We also, if you want to connect with like the Temple Beautiful side, we have a Temple Beautiful YouTube YouTube page. I don't do any advertising on it or anything. If you're drawn to it, you're drawn to it. If not, not a big deal. You can look us up. You can look us up there, and we're all over. So if you guys have questions about, any of the stuff we talked about, and any other things like Twin Flames or Super Soldier programs, or crazy things like that, we can definitely maybe touch on those next time.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Much love.
Much love.